It began with a crash at dawn, the kind of hollow thud that rattles inside your skull before you even know what it means. I stumbled to the window, still groggy from a late-night shift, and there she was, Karen. Her wide frame hunched over my trash, like some villain in a low-budget movie, her manicured fingers gripping the lid as she tipped the whole thing into the street. Banana peels, coffee grounds, and yesterday's dinner scraps spilled across the pavement like a scene from a war zone. She didn't even flinch when the bag split open and the smell wafted through the neighborhood. She just dusted her hands, lifted her chin, and marched away as if she'd done the world a favor. It wasn't the first time. For weeks, she had waged her silent war against my trash cans. Sometimes she'd shove them into my driveway so my truck couldn't pull in. Other times, she'd knock them flat on the lawn, garbage strewn for raccoons to scatter further. Every time I cleaned it up, she'd be there watching, sipping coffee with that satisfied smirk, daring me to confront her. And every time, I swallowed my rage because Emily, my wife, begged me not to escalate. She'll twist it. She always does, she whispered, fear etched across her face. But the morning I caught her red-handed tipping my bin into the street was the morning something inside me snapped. I yanked open the door and shouted, "What the hell do you think you're doing?" She froze, then spun with all the arrogance she could muster. "Keeping the neighborhood clean," she declared. "Your bins are an eyesore. The board has received multiple complaints." Complaints? I barked. They're city-issued cans. I put them out the night before collection like everyone else. Her lips twisted into that cruel smile I'd come to loathe. Rules are rules. And if you can't follow them, maybe you don't belong here. The audacity of it hit like a sucker punch. She wasn't just harassing me. She was trying to drive us out, to claim dominion over something as basic as where I placed my trash. That was the day I decided the silent war would end, and it would end on my terms. I spent hours that evening sketching plans in my garage. My military engineering background wasn't something I usually flashed around, but if Karen wanted a battle, I would give her one she'd never forget. By midnight, I had built a prototype. A trash can reinforced with steel plating, motion sensors hidden under the lid, and a harmless but effective surprise system compressed air jets programmed to blast upward if someone tried to tip it. Not dangerous, but shocking enough to send a clear message. The next morning, I placed it at the curb with deliberate care. Then I waited. Sure enough, just as the sun crested over the rooftops, Karen waddled out of her house like a general inspecting troops. Clipboard in hand, sunglasses perched on her nose, she strutted toward my property. I watched from behind the blinds, my pulse pounding in my ears. She glanced around to make sure no one was looking except I was. Then she grabbed the handle of the can and yanked. The hiss of compressed air split the quiet morning. With a whoosh, the jets blasted straight up, catching her square in the face and chest. Karen shrieked, stumbling backward, arms flailing. Her clipboard went flying, smacking the pavement as she crashed into her own hedges. The neighbors who had gathered quietly to watch couldn't hold back their laughter. Phones were out, cameras flashing, the queen of control now dripping with humiliation as she scrambled to her feet. Hair askew, her blouse spattered with the remnants of last night's rain the jets had drawn up. But the twist came from someone I never expected. Old Mr. Harris, the quiet widower who lived at the corner and barely spoke a word to anyone, stepped forward. He held up his phone and said in a voice louder than I'd ever heard, "I've got weeks of footage. She's been knocking over my bins too. And yours. And the Johnsons. Enough is enough." He uploaded the videos right there, sending them to the deputy sheriff's office, the city sanitation department, and the local news. Karen's face turned crimson as the crowd turned on her. "You think this is funny?" she screeched, pointing at me with a trembling finger. "You'll regret this. I'll fine you into the ground. I'll have you evicted." I stepped out onto the lawn, my voice calm but ringing with authority. "No, Karen. You'll answer for harassment, trespassing, and vandalism. You wanted to make an example out of me? Congratulations, you just made an example out of yourself." The deputies arrived within the hour, summoned by Harris's evidence. They cited her on the spot for multiple counts of property damage and harassment. The look on her face when the officer told her she'd be appearing in court was sweeter than any victory I'd imagined. And as the neighbors clapped, as laughter rolled through the street where fear had once hung, I knew the tide had turned. Karen wasn't invincible anymore. She was just another bully who had finally tripped over her own cruelty. The court date came quicker than anyone expected. Karen had always strutted around with the certainty that the HOA board was her shield, that no one would ever dare to challenge her authority. But this time was different. This wasn't a petty argument about paint colors or lawn heights. This was vandalism, harassment, and public humiliation documented in high definition by more than half the neighborhood. The deputies had no choice but to move fast. The courthouse buzzed with more energy than I'd ever seen for a simple misdemeanor hearing. Neighbors packed the benches, some standing in the back because there weren't enough seats. Karen marched in wearing a navy blue pantsuit that strained at the seams, her chin high, as if she thought dressing up could restore the crown she'd lost on that trash-splattered morning. She even carried her infamous clipboard like a royal scepter. But her eyes darted nervously toward the camera's local reporters were already there, ready to pounce on a story that had gone viral overnight. The prosecutor wasted no time. He played the footage from Mr. Harris's phone on the big screen. The sound of the trash can clattering, Karen's shrill laugh as she shoved it over, the endless repeats across multiple houses, each clip stacked onto the last until the courtroom hummed with outrage. And then came the piece de resistance. The video of her triggering my reinforced trash can, the blast of compressed air catching her full in the chest as she flailed and tumbled into her hedges. The room erupted in laughter, even the judge stifling a smirk before banging the gavel for order. Karen's lawyer tried to argue she was enforcing HOA bylaws, that my trash can modification was a dangerous trap. But I stood and explained, in clear terms, how the system worked in lethal, harmless, designed only to deter tampering. My background in engineering gave my words weight. If she hadn't touched what didn't belong to her, it would have never gone off, I said firmly. The jury nodded, several whispering in agreement. But the real twist came when Jessica, the former HOA secretary, stepped into the witness box. She was young, nervous, but her voice carried a truth the whole room leaned into. Karen ordered us to target certain families, she confessed. She said if we made their lives miserable, they'd either leave or fall in line. She had a list people she didn't like, people who spoke up. And she made me write fake violation notices against them. Gasps echoed. The judge leaned forward. Jessica opened her purse and pulled out a manila envelope filled with copies of forged fines, some with Karen's own signature. The mask cracked. For the first time, Karen's bravado faltered. She slammed her palm on the table and shouted, "Lies. All of it lies. She's jealous of my position." But the more she screamed, the smaller she looked, her authority shrinking with every outburst. The judge silenced her with a single warning, and when she tried again, the gavel struck harder. The verdict wasn't just about trash cans anymore. Karen was found guilty of vandalism, harassment, falsification of records, and abuse of authority. The judge fined her heavily, ordered restitution to every family she had extorted, and stripped her permanently from any HOA position. On top of that, she was sentenced to community service picking up trash on public streets under supervision. The irony wasn't lost on anyone. The day she put on that neon safety vest and bent over to pick up litter while cars slowed to gawk was the day her empire truly collapsed. Neighbors filmed, posted online, and laughed, but behind the laughter was relief. The tyrant of the cul-de-sac had finally been dethroned. And the neighborhood? It blossomed. Without Karen prowling the sidewalks, people began to relax. Kids played basketball in driveways without being scolded for noise violations. Families planted flowers, painted fences, even hosted block parties that had once been unthinkable under her reign. For the first time in years, the street felt like a community instead of a prison yard patrolled by a self-proclaimed warden. Mr. Harris became the unlikely hero, his quiet resilience inspiring others. He told me one afternoon, while we leaned on our rakes after cleaning up the park, "I kept my head down too long. Should have spoken up years ago. You gave me the push I needed." His voice cracked, but his eyes glowed with something stronger than regret-renewed pride. For Emily and me, life found peace again. I still kept my reinforced trash can at the curb, though now it had become a symbol rather than a weapon. Neighbors would grin and nod at it like an old friend, a reminder that standing up to a bully didn't always require shouting. It sometimes just needed clever resolve and the courage to draw a line. And every time I pass Karen now, shuffling down the highway shoulder in her vest, poking at litter with a grabber stick while the world films her fall from grace. I feel no hatred. Only a deep, quiet lesson. Power borrowed through fear will always crumble, but dignity earned through truth endures. So I'll leave you with this. When someone abuses their position, twisting rules to harm others, do you let them keep knocking over your peace, or do you build something strong enough to stop them? What do you think, was Karen's punishment fitting, or should her downfall have gone further? Share your thoughts. Was this justice, or just the beginning?